The moment Nathaniel Clarke stepped into the softly lit restaurant that evening, he felt a strange emptiness he couldn't shake. It had been 3 years since the accident that had claimed his wife, Margaret, and every day since had been a struggle to breathe through the ache in his chest. As the CEO of a thriving tech company in Boston, Nathaniel was surrounded by power, wealth, and influence, yet none of it could fill the hollow that grief had carved into his life. Tonight, a blind date had been arranged by a friend who insisted that Nathaniel deserved a chance at happiness again. He didn't believe it, he wasn't even sure he wanted it. But part of him craved something, anything, that reminded him life might still hold beauty. If you believe in kindness, unexpected moments, and second chances, don't forget to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching stories. As he waited, Nathaniel sipped his water and stared at the flickering candle in front of him, lost in memories. Margaret had been everything to him, her laugh like sunlight, her presence grounding him in ways that no success or luxury ever could. And then she was gone, leaving Nathaniel in a world that suddenly seemed too sharp, too cold. The hostess appeared and guided a woman toward his table. Nathaniel looked up, and for the first moment, the world tilted in a way he didn't understand. The woman approaching him was stunning, with delicate features, soft brown hair cascading down her shoulders, and a presence that felt uncannily familiar. But that familiarity was more than just resemblance, it was like staring into a mirror that reflected the past he had fought so hard to survive. He found himself standing, his mouth dry, his hands trembling slightly. Her name was Rebecca, she introduced herself with a shy smile, and they sat. Nathaniel's mind raced, but he forced himself to breathe. The evening began cautiously, with small talk about careers, favorite books, and childhood memories. Rebecca had a warmth about her, a gentle, empathetic nature that reminded him of Margaret, though in ways that were uniquely her own. Yet with every laugh, every soft glance, Nathaniel's heart skipped painfully, torn between recognition and disbelief. As the night progressed, Nathaniel realized he was staring at her hands, the way she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, the subtle smile that tugged at the corners of her lips. There was something so achingly familiar, something that felt as though it had been waiting for him all this time, yet he couldn't place it. His mind kept looping back to Margaret, and a wave of guilt washed over him. Was he betraying her memory just by feeling drawn to this woman? Rebecca spoke softly about her life, about her work as a children's book illustrator in New York, about her small circle of friends, and the quiet solace she found in painting. Nathaniel listened, captivated, and gradually the tension in his chest began to loosen, replaced by a fragile hope he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. By dessert, they were laughing together, and Nathaniel realized he hadn't felt this alive in what seemed like a lifetime. But the night was far from ordinary. When the check came, Nathaniel noticed a subtle nervousness in Rebecca, a hesitancy he hadn't seen before. It was in that quiet moment, as they stepped out into the chilly Boston night, that she finally confessed something that made his world shift entirely. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice trembling. I'm Margaret's twin sister." Time seemed to stop. Nathaniel's heart pounded violently, his breath catching in his throat. The resemblance was no coincidence. This was the mystery, the haunting familiarity that had drawn him to her all evening. He felt a surge of emotions, shock, confusion, grief, and a strange, tender longing. He didn't know whether to be angry, relieved, or frightened by the sudden collision of his past and this unforeseen reality. Rebecca continued, explaining that she had lived in New York most of her life and had only recently discovered a box of letters, photos, and family secrets that revealed her connection to Margaret. She hadn't known her twin existed until after Margaret's death, and learning about him, Nathaniel, was like finding a piece of her sister that had been lost. She had agreed to the blind date without realizing who he was, and the irony, the cosmic twist of fate, was not lost on either of them. Nathaniel listened, speechless. He wanted to reach for her, to pull her into a hug, but he hesitated. This was uncharted territory, and he wasn't sure if he was allowed to feel the spark of connection he felt forming between them. For months, he had been imprisoned in grief, avoiding the possibility of love. And yet here she was, a living, breathing bridge between the woman he had lost and the future he hadn't dared imagine. In the weeks that followed, Nathaniel and Rebecca tentatively explored their relationship, walking through the streets of Boston under winter's soft glow, sharing meals at small, quiet cafes, and talking for hours about everything from childhood dreams to their fears about moving on. Nathaniel struggled with guilt, with the ever-present shadow of Margaret's memory, but Rebecca's presence was not a replacement. It was a gentle reminder that life, in all its complicated, messy glory, could still offer joy. One evening, as they stood overlooking the Charles River, watching the sun sink into the horizon, Nathaniel finally allowed himself to speak the truth that had been locked in his chest for so long. He told Rebecca how much he had missed Margaret, how her absence had left him hollow, and how he hadn't thought it possible to feel happiness again. Rebecca took his hands in hers and whispered that she understood, that grief was a path that couldn't be hurried, but that love in all its forms, was never lost, only transformed. Nathaniel realized something profound in that moment. The heart has a remarkable capacity to heal, to expand, and to embrace new beginnings even after the deepest pain. Rebecca was not Margaret, but she carried the essence of someone he had loved dearly, and her existence was a reminder that life, though unpredictable and sometimes cruel, also held miracles disguised as ordinary encounters. Their journey wasn't easy. Friends and family struggled to understand, and Nathaniel often wrestled with the morality of moving forward while honoring the past. Yet with every shared sunrise, every laugh, and every quiet moment of connection, he began to see that the heart does not diminish the love it has lost by opening itself to love again. Instead, it enriches that love, adding layers of resilience, understanding, and gratitude. Months later, Nathaniel found himself proposing to Rebecca in the very restaurant where they had met, the place where fate had pulled them together in the most unexpected way. The table where they had shared that first, electric night was adorned with candles, flowers, and a small framed photo of Margaret, an acknowledgement of the past, a tribute to the love that had shaped him, and a blessing for the love that awaited him. Rebecca, tears streaming down her face, said yes, and in that moment, Nathaniel felt whole in a way he hadn't imagined possible. Life continued, imperfect and unpredictable, but Nathaniel learned that grief and joy could coexist, that loss could coexist with hope, and that love in its purest form, was resilient. He carried Margaret's memory with reverence, while embracing Rebecca as a new chapter, a chapter filled with understanding, tenderness, and the promise of shared tomorrows. And sometimes, in quiet moments, he would catch Rebecca smiling in ways that reminded him of his late wife, and instead of pain, he felt a gentle warmth, a reminder that the past, though unchangeable, could guide him toward the future with grace. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and comment below. Tell us your thoughts, your experiences with love, loss, or second chances. And before you leave, share one special memory of someone who changed your life in unexpected ways. Let's honor the love and hope that remains with us. Nathaniel's story is a testament to the human spirit, to the strength that emerges from tragedy, and to the serendipity that often walks hand in hand with pain. Sometimes, life's most profound gifts arrive in the form of strangers who unknowingly carry pieces of our past and guide us toward a future we never dared imagine. And through it all, the lesson remains clear: even when hearts are broken, they are capable of beating again, fiercely, tenderly, and fully alive.